what's the deal with Blackbeard? All right, this is something that people have been asking since the dawn of time with One Piece. Um, uh, and the thing is, like, I don't even know where to start with this. I have so many thoughts on Blackbeard, and in preparation for this video, I don't have anything scripted, but in preparation for this video, what did I have to do? I reread the entire story, which of course takes like 2 months, and then I also I um, I took note of every single chapter that Blackbeard is mentioned in, speaks in, or is shown in, and then I had to make like basically like an Excel sheet showing all of these different chapters, how many panels he's in, what does he look like, what is he wearing, everything. I'm breaking down this guy to the craziest level. And the reason why I'm doing this is because this guy has a lot of theories around him. He only shows up in I didn't count, but it's like about 35 chapters out of 1,000, nearly 1,100 at this point. He shows up in about 35 chapters, and so when you look at that, you're like, well, how much information can we really pull about this guy? But I would say that Oda is an extremely thoughtful author, and so when he writes, he often, or not writes, but draws, he often draws with extreme intention. Like he doesn't, he's not devil may care. Things don't change from panel to panel. He's doing something on purpose. Now, I'm also not going to claim that Oda is perfect. Obviously mistakes are made. But these visual cues are extremely important in understanding who and what Blackbeard is. So the first thing I want to bring up is, let's see if I can find it, because believe it or not, across my 3 monitors, I have like 6 or 7 different tabs on each monitor of different One Piece wiki things. So now I have to, sort of deck myself in the face for not preparing this ahead of time. But basically what we're looking at here is Blackbeard has visual cues to his personality, I believe. I wouldn't call this a theory, more as a guess. And I before I actually jump into that, let's actually look at the prevailing theory that I have seen about Blackbeard. The prevailing theories that I have seen is he has multiple personalities, which would be backed up by his flag. His Jolly Roger is 3 skulls with a backdrop of, what is it, 3 bones? No, 4 bones. There's 2 bones in a T formation and 2 bones in an X formation behind the 3 skulls. 2 skulls are on either side, looking to the left and the right, and then the main skull is looking straight forward. And this is what some people have been using as an example that he has multiple personalities. Now you might be thinking, you've read One Piece, you never got that feeling from his dialogue. Well, the very first chapter that he appears in is chapter 223. And what ends up happening is he has a conversation with Luffy and Zoro and Nami. And as the Straw Hat crew turn around and walk away from him, Zoro and Luffy both note that Nami says something like, what was that all about? Who is he? And Zoro and Luffy both say, it's not he, it's probably them. And it's kind of a weird dialogue, because of course Nami, who doesn't know what they're talking about, assumes they mean that they're like, assumes that they're talking about Blackbeard's crew. Like, oh, he's a pirate with a crew? That's what you guys mean? Like, he has friends? But what readers believe is that, no, they weren't talking about a crew. They were talking about Blackbeard himself as multiple human beings or something. Multiple personalities, multiples of something. And so now at this point we're looking at, why do they think that? And let me tell you, of all my tabs of Wikipedias, I also have a tab that has every single like every single panel that he shows up in. So I can zip right through to any chapter that I want, or not chapter, but panel I want, and like look at what he's doing in the moment. What why do they think they instead of he? And so in 223 they're introduced, and in 225 I think it is that they determine that he is a them, not a him. And so what does that mean? I have reread chapter 225 1,000 times. I don't know. Like you could say it's like their what do you call that? Their the progenitor to their observation hockey, that they're able to determine that there's something off about Blackbeard. Because I would say on a visual and dialogue basis, it's like extremely difficult to tell, if possible at all, that Marshall D. Teach is something other than what he appears. The prevailing theory is multiple personalities, and off of that theory, I've seen an offshoot of maybe he's a part of the Three-Eye Tribe. Now you might be asking, why the Three-Eye Tribe? You might not be asking any of this, because honestly, I don't know how prevalent this theory is. I've said before in a previous video, I don't do social media, I don't do Reddit, I don't do anything like this, Twitter, nothing. So I don't know how prevalent this assumption is, but basically people are saying he might be a part of the Three-Eye Tribe. Hints to this would be Pudding, Charlotte Pudding. Oh, by the way, this is a lot of spoilers. Just don't. I might have to put subtitles in. Charlotte Pudding is a member of the Three-Eye Tribe, but she's only a half-breed. She's half human, half Three-Eye. And apparently, Three-Eyes are supposed to have the ability to read the poneglyphs. They have some sort of power that comes with their third eye. But half-breeds like Charlotte don't appear to exhibit this power. But on the other hand, Charlotte has multiple personalities. She has two personalities. We don't know why. At first, I thought it was played for a gag to, like, because she has, like, weird instances where she hates and loves Sanji. So you're like, oh, okay, it's played for laughs. But it could be an actual thing, right? If it's an actual thing, is it related to her being a Three-Eye? And if it's related to her being a Three-Eye, then perhaps Blackbeard wraps in with that. There's not very many characters in the story that have multiple personalities. There's Charlotte Linden, there's Cavendish, and there's Blackbeard. And Blackbeard is an if, right? We're really playing with that if today. So you look at Charlotte Linden, she has three eyes, she has no discernible foresight powers, but she has multiple personalities. Cavendish, like Pudding, has bangs that cover his forehead 95% of the time. So it's very possible that Oda was intentionally hiding a third eye there. You never know until you see it, right? But the important thing with Cavendish is, like Blackbeard, Cavendish never sleeps. And when I say this, I mean the second Cavendish falls asleep, he has like this evil, chaotic side that wakes up and wreaks havoc. It's written as if that only happens when because he has like a sleepwalking disorder. And so it's implied that he only has this second personality when he's sleepwalking due to his syndrome. But it's also very, very, very easy to assume that maybe Cavendish just never sleeps. And you might be saying, well, why would that be important? Because there's actually a... Can he do it? Not likely. There is a chapter, fairly recent, with Yes, chapter 966, where Buggy is talking to. This is a flashback. Odin is telling his story, and this is a flashback of. It shows. It's just like 3 panels. It shows, or 4 or 5 panels. It shows Buggy and Shanks talking to each other about Blackbeard, because it's like both teams essentially are like looking at each other, and Buggy says they say Blackbeard has never slept a day in his life, and so they have their comedic little bit after that, but like that's like bolded in the dialogue, and there's a lot of attention brought to it about the fact that Blackbeard never sleeps. Well, if Blackbeard never sleeps, you can draw the assumption that Cavendish also never sleeps. And if that's true, and Cavendish also has a second personality, it's possible it's a three-eyed tribe thing. I'm not married to it. But the idea of Cavendish and Blackbeard maybe belonging to the same clan / tribe / bloodline, something like that, yeah, I can get on board with that, especially after seeing Cavendish go insane. So yeah, that's the personality thing that really cropped up. And like I said before, the flag obviously has a huge impact on how people are perceiving the multiple personalities. The flag has 3 skulls. Why 3 skulls, right? You look at the Straw Hat, Jolly Roger. It's just a skull and crossbones with a straw hat, because Luffy wears a straw hat 100% of the time. The Shanks pirates, the red-haired crew, they have the scar across the one eye, and also I believe the bones in the back are actually swords. So coming back to the Blackbeard pirates, 3 skulls. So people say, well, maybe he has 3 personalities. Like people, I don't know, man. I don't know how people how other people got to the conclusion of, oh, 3 skulls, 3 personalities. Maybe that explains why he can use multiple devil fruits. Blah 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 blah. Yeah, but I don't know where this originated from. For me, on a personal note, I said it's visual. Why did I say it's visual? Because I noticed right away, like chapter 223, when he's first visually introduced, there are 2 panels where it shows him smiling big. He has 3 teeth missing. And then there's another panel where he's like exiting a bar as oh, that moron, what's his name? You know his name. Doflamingo's wannabe lackey guy, Bellamy. Bellamy is walking into the tavern as Blackbeard's walking out, and Blackbeard has a full set of teeth. So then you're like, why does, is it just... I honestly gave it a benefit of the doubt at first, because I was like, well, you know what? A full set of teeth and missing teeth on his debut chapter, maybe Oda hasn't drawn him very much yet, and therefore mistakes can be made. That's what I said when I saw that. So I was like, okay, I'll let it slip. And then later on, 2 chapters later, keep that in mind, 2 chapters later, not only does his character look way more fleshed out, but there's 1 panel where he has 4 teeth missing, and 2 panels where he has 3 teeth missing. And you're like, well, wait a second, we just established what teeth he's missing, either 3 or none, and now he's missing 4 and 3, and you're like, okay, is there no consistency here, or is there something attached to this? And the reason why I think there's something attached to this is because, like I said, I just finished rereading the entire series, scrubbing through, looking specifically for Blackbeard appearances, voices, or people speaking about him. And let me tell you, across the board, it's constantly changing. So in 235, for example, he appears in one panel with 3 teeth missing. 236, one panel, 4 missing. 237, one panel, 4 missing. 434, 2 panels, 4 missing. And you're like, oh, there's consistency coming along. But then 440, it's 3 again. And in 441, he shows up across the entire chapter because he's fighting Ace in this chapter. So it's like an entire chapter of him and his crew fighting Ace. You see close-ups of his face constantly, and throughout the entire battle, he has 3 teeth missing. So you're like, okay, it's consistent. 3 teeth is his norm, which means all the rest must be mistakes, right? Well, in chapter 576, he is fighting Whitebeard. And so he's in the entire chapter, showing up constantly. And in the entire chapter, he has 4 teeth missing. So you're like, okay, maybe it's possible that Oda just couldn't settle on whether or not he wanted 3 or 4 teeth. Like I went into this as skeptically as possible, but it's so. The thing is, when you look at all the other characters, whenever they endure some kind of injury that has a physical, visible effect, like when Luffy gets decked in the face by Sanji during the whole cake arc, and he loses a tooth, he's losing. Like every single panel after that, Luffy is missing that tooth. Like there's never ever a mistake where he's accidentally given a full tooth. No. He's missing that tooth forever until he goes inside of Capone's like body mansion and drinks like this milk box to and it's played off as a gag because he drinks this milk box and magically his tooth reappears. But then after that, he's never missing a tooth after that. So you're like, okay, does Luffy actually have some crazy power, or was that a gag? Like you're sitting there trying to figure out why. But the important part for me is the detail that up until he miraculously grew back his tooth, the tooth was missing the entire time. There wasn't a single slip up in the 30-odd chapters where. It might have been less than that. I can't remember specifically. Because I wasn't looking for that. I just, once I got to the whole cake arc, I was like, oh yeah, he loses a tooth. So I started to follow that as well. Just a little bit. But so anyway, so I'm sitting there and I'm like, dude, through this entire, like, story so far of this, like, less than 30, I would say less than 30 chapters where his teeth are, like, fully brandished and on for show, it's extremely inconsistent. It's 3 and 4 and 3 and 4 all the way along, with occasionally, I would say, let's say there's 30 chapters of him fully baring his teeth. I would say maybe like 10 of them, 10 to 12 of them are 3 teeth, 10 to 12 of them are 4 teeth, and then like 6 to 10 of them are 0 teeth missing. And again, I feel like a crazy person just talking about this because this is so insane to track. I read the whole series just to track his teeth, and my gosh, I then what I did was I was like, okay, now I have to go back and I have to like copy down this guy's mood corresponding with how many teeth he's missing to see if there's like a personality shift. And guess what? There is. There's a personality shift each time he's missing different sets of teeth. Can you believe it? There's a connection. And guess what? It lines up with him having 3 different personalities. Oh my gosh. Vindication! Let me tell you the vindication I felt after the insanity of reading this stupid story over the course of the last month, just to track every instance of Blackbeard. So, and let me tell you, I tried to just Google, like, which chapters does Blackbeard show up in? And there's, like, no full list, so I had to reread it all. And let me tell you, when I reread it all and compiled my list, it did not match up with any existing list on the internet, basically. Like, literally, nobody had the same amount of chapters that he's shown up in. So I was like, yeah, it was better of me to just, read it all myself. So, here are the deductions that I have made based on my research. When Blackbeard has 4 teeth missing, he has a very chaotic, you could call it careless side to him. When he has 3 teeth missing, he seems to be extremely overconfident with whatever's happening. And when he has 0 teeth missing, he tends to take things extremely seriously, or at least at face value. Yep. These are consistent and trackable. And this isn't even something that I noticed until later. I was re-perusing after I compiled like 100 tabs of all his different paneling. I re-went through them all, and guess what? There is a panel, it's during the Marineford battle, where he's fighting against Whitebeard. And he cancels out Whitebeard's power, and he's like, see, you can't cause earthquakes anymore. And he's all like making fun of Whitebeard because he's like hyper overconfident. And guess what? He's missing 4 teeth. I'm looking at it right now. Oh, vindication! It feels so good. But so then Whitebeard just hits him with his sword, and he falls down, and he's bleeding, and he's like, And Whitebeard says, overconfidence and carelessness are your weaknesses. And I'm like, dude, I already set up my theory that 3 teeth is overconfidence and 4 teeth is carelessness. I wrote that in before I read that panel, and I was like, what? Oh my gosh. It's like a hint dropped by Oda from the heavens that this guy definitely, I mean, obviously Whitebeard says these are your weaknesses, but these are his personalities. And so then, of course, this might fall back to, well, what's the point, Jeff? Like, okay, he has 3 personalities. You've proven this. It's a cool discovery. What does it mean? Like, who cares, right? Well, Cavendish, his other personality was insane, right? Like, he had, like, ultra violence. And Pudding was the same. She was kind on one side and then hyper violent on the other side. And I feel like Blackbeard doesn't have that extreme violence with one of these sides. The 0 teeth one, the one with 0 teeth missing, like across the board, like let's see here if I can find one. Like the very first instance of him not missing any teeth is the very first chapter with him, and he's not paying attention. He's coming out of the tavern, and he just happens to be the character in frame when Bellamy walks past him, but he's not paying attention to anything. He's just carelessly walking along with it. He has like a bundle of like 50 pies in his hand. Like, he's not paying attention to anything. He has a full set of teeth. Let's see here. It also seemed to have some, maybe not, but it may have had some correlation with his power usage. For example, there's an instance where he's fighting Ace in chapter 441, where he winds up with his hand and strikes Ace in the neck with like a physical chop, and like the panel where he makes contact with Ace, he has all of his teeth. But if you take a step back to the panel immediately before that, the panel that's like sharing a wall with it, he's winding up to hit Ace, and he doesn't have all his teeth. So he's not touching Ace, and then the second he touches Ace, boom, he has all of his teeth, and you're like, is that something? And then there's another instance in chapter 544 when he's fighting Luffy and Impel Down, and there's two panels side by side. In the first panel, he grabs Luffy. The second panel, he slams Luffy into the ground. And this is one of the only instances in the entire story where he's not smiling, and all of his teeth are there. So it might be happenstance. It might be a mistake by Oda. I'm willing to rule out that the 0 teeth missing are mistakes. But it's really hard. It's really hard to tell, especially since there's so many different like specific situations with him, because he's a super chaotic pirate in general, and Oda has said that Edward Teach, the character whom Blackbeard is based on, Edward Teach is a real pirate that existed way back when, who like he would put like candle wax in his hair and light his hair on fire, and so as he walked around, he would have like wisps of smoke coming off of him, and that sort of speaks to the character design of Blackbeard, who has the dark fruit that has this constant like shadowy smoke behind him when he activates it. He also has Blackbeard has the post time skip, the 3 little, I don't know what they're called, like ponytails of his beard, and that's what the actual Blackbeard Edward Teach had. And of course, he has Edward Teach, the real person, has like 3 or 4 guns in his his belt, and that's what like Blackbeard is known for, having like multiple guns under his belt. Even though he has all these powers, so why does he need a gun? Because it's like the character inspiration thing, right? But what I'm saying is, if Edward Teach is Oda's favorite like real life pirate of all time, which he has said, you would think that he would put extra effort and love into Blackbeard, and Blackbeard might end up being one of the story's primary antagonists. Right now, even now, I would say he's kind of he's a crazy, what do you call that? He's a wild card. And when I say current, we are currently looking at 1085. That's the current chapter. And currently, I would still say, again, spoiler alert, he just handily destroyed Law. But he's chaotic because he was just he was like, I was waiting at this island because I knew one of you would show up here. Between you, Kid, and Luffy, like, you drew the short straw. I was going to kick the shit out of whoever appeared, right? And so, it's on those grounds, you're like, okay, well, that's good to know, right? I'm just saying there's a lot of craziness going on here. So let's see. The 3 personality thing, does that have any relevance with his being able to have multiple fruits at the same time? Possibly. This is if he is a 3-eyed tribe person, here's my theory about the 3-eyed tribe. They have 3 eyes. That's real. That's not a theory. They can read poneglyphs with their awakened foresight power. There's not very many of them, just like the Will of D. And these 3 are facts. These are things we know. They might have multiple personalities, all of them. But this is my theory part. My theory part is, if their power of foresight doesn't come about, perhaps they develop multiple personalities as a consequence. The reason I say this is because we haven't met a full-blooded three-eye tribe person before. We've only met people with multiple personalities, so you have to sort of work backwards from there and see if you can line it up somehow. The only three-eye tribe person we know is Pudding. She has multiple personalities, and then you have to sort of pair her violent half with Cavendish's violent half, and you're like, okay, there's a correlation there. And then you're like, okay, is there any correlation with Blackbeard? Is there any correlation with themselves? You know what I mean? It's difficult to know, but like that's unfortunately how far my theory is on that front, because I don't know. I hate my videos going longer than 30 minutes, but and I'm almost done. Right, so his teeth is the main thing for me. The multiple personas. Here's an alternate theory. If he's not a three-eye tribe, it's possible that his devil fruit, you know how he, in his battle with Ace, he like eats a whole town because his devil fruit has some weird like pocket dimension. Then he spits it all out, but for a little while, it like doesn't exist in normal space anymore. It's inside some sort of pocket dimension. So he may have been Blackbeard, may have been weird to begin with, or after getting his first devil fruit and exploring its abilities, he realized he could reach a set or bring forth a second persona that could share his body from multiple fruits. It's possible. I'm not. It's so on the nose that you're like, well, or not. It's not even on the nose. It's like reaching, right? We don't know anything about his power other than what he's shown us, so it's like really hard to make the deliberation that, well, actually, when he uses this power, he like unlocks like secret, like, you know, superpowers, blah 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 blah. Like, we don't know anything. It's unfair even to assume that. So on that front, I have to say that I have absolutely zero idea. Three skulls mean three personalities. It's possible that he can have a third devil fruit, basically. And right now he has a Logia type and a Paramecia type. It's entirely possible that he is either in search of or has an animal fruit as well. And that would fully round him out as like the perfect opposition to Luffy. If you go and watch my Gomu Gomu no Shanks video, you will see what I mean. That's it for now, I think. I'm going to hate myself because I'm going to stop recording and then I'm going to find something else that I forgot to mention and I'll be like, damn it! But basically, the teeth are important. And there's personality traits to the teeth. Look it up. It's really, really crazy when you notice it and realize it, and it's not Oda making constant mistakes, because Oda doesn't make constant mistakes. He makes random mistakes. At random. Across the board. Not just on one specific character and one specific feature.